Monogamy is not natural. It's a choice. This is Spiritual Sense, Information for Your Soul. I'm Shareece, and I love talking about sex, relationships, monogamy, non-monogamy, sex clubs, group sex kind of things. I am maybe a little bit of a prude in real life, but I have a lot of sexual energy, which means I just really enjoy talking about these topics. I think with everything that's been going on recently in social media, pop culture, your favorite influencer, whoever, I think it's helpful to have a conversation about monogamy, non-monogamy, all the things in between. So let's go over some terms. Polygamy is generally when a man has multiple wives or women partners. Polyandry is when a woman has multiple husbands or multiple male partners. Polyandry is fairly rare. I think rare is a good way of describing it. It happens in very select groups of people across the world, I think in Tibet, and mainly happens when the ratio of men to women is, unbalanced. Polyandry happens when there are more men who have to share a woman. And so they feel fairly comfortable because of the dynamics of the social structure and because they're not westernized. I mean, Western culture has normalized monogamy, which makes sense because the whole reason that polygamy existed was to help create community because women were unable to fend for themselves, to, go out, do the hunting, and needed the financial support of a man to do that. But we live in the 21st century, and it's very unlikely in developed countries that women do not have the agency to create their own income. And so if a woman is able to create her own income, it's highly unlikely that she would be agreeable to a poly sort of relationship. The polyamorous relationships generally they can be, I guess they have different levels, right? They can just be sex, or they can be whole relationships. And they can be like one person in the group has relationships with other people. It could be 3 people have relationships with each other and they form like a triad of a relationship. Very different. If you look at these relationships in Western communities, they tend not to have a good track record for longevity. I would say maybe the monogamous, because I don't know if you know, a lot of people cheat. Men and women cheat at the same rate. And it's very difficult to find someone who's been married 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And that couple having been monogamous the entire time. There's also open relationships, open marriages, where you may have a mistress that you have like an emotional relationship with, or you may have the permission or, your partner is agreed with you, right? Because you've communicated, because otherwise it's just cheating. It's just cheating if you have not agreed with your partner to do this. But that on certain occasions, it's okay to have sex with somebody else, like maybe on a vacation, on a business trip, but that this person is not constant in your life, not a regular occurrence. And then there's some where there's no real emotional relationship, but you keep the same person that you're having sex with. And there may or may not be some kind of financial exchange. But I think these sorts of relationships happen way more often than we would like to admit. I think people choose to cheat instead of being honest with themselves and with other people because it's just difficult. It's difficult to have honest conversations, especially about sex, which is so like taboo. And then you might really like and love this person. And what if they don't want to do what you want them to do? Like, you want to keep them around. You want to maintain this relationship. Maybe you have kids. And if you tell them, hey, I'm really interested in an open relationship. I love you. I want to be with you. But I also want to sometimes have sex with other people on the side. I really think it's helpful to consider if this would work for you or to consider it at all. Just acknowledge that long-term monogamous relationships, healthy ones, are boring. They get to a routine, they're monotonous, And Esther Perel talks so extensively about this. If you do not maintain a sense of mystery and wonder in your relationship, y'all are gonna like fizzle out and cheat. The betrayal, because I always say cheating is not a deal breaker for me. I abhor lying. I really don't like lying because I'm a real honest person and like understanding. I really don't like lying, but cheating is not a deal breaker for me because I understand how humans work. And if you understand that men and women cheat at the same rate, do it the same amount of times, you'll understand that this is kind of really common. And it's probably more helpful to understand the dynamics underlying why a person would cheat or want to have a non-monogamous sort of relationship than to just judge them right off the bat. When you get into, spaces where men have a significant amount of money, remember back when, and in some countries it still happens this way, men who have a lot of resources can afford to have multiple wives. He can afford to have more children. And so I think it's like an innate thing to still want that. And it's a choice to not do it. Like men with a lot of resources who say, I just want to be in a monogamous relationship with one person, I think it's a choice. Like they are really choosing that because it's real easy. I don't know, have you been out in these streets? Have you been living? Like it's real easy to find someone that you're attracted to. It's so easy to feel like a click, and all the things that make a healthy relationship last long term. I think is much harder, but it's so easy to find a sexual partner if that's something you're looking for. And so a man with a lot of money that chooses not to, it's really a choice. But when you consider the pros and cons of an open relationship, a poly relationship, I think it's clear that who really wants to deal with the jealousy of it all? If you are not a jealous person, then this may be a situation that works for you. But the nature of poly relationships and the openness and the honesty that goes into them helps support this idea that not one person can supply all your needs. And hey, multiple people are fine and dandy to do that. If you're thinking of creating a village or a small community, if you're a man with a lot of resources who wants to create this community, give back to the community, that might be a pro. I think it really depends on what it is that you want and what it is that you think you can live with, because it really requires you to be honest with yourself and honest with other people, because can be a lot of people involved in this, to know what really works for you. But just considering is just a difference and opens up a way of communicating about what do you want your relationship to look like now, 5 years, 20 years from now. Because I just think talking about relationships, what you want it to be like, always checking in about are your needs being met, like is this the way we want things to be, is how healthy relationships last in the long term. Let me know what you think in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, share this video with someone you think it may help, and thank you for watching.